I'm Will Richards, and this is The Dash, an insight to the success story of people from all walks of life in their chosen field. If you're looking to level up, stick with us. This just might help. So, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Will.
Good.
It's good to be here.
Glad to have you on. It's been, we were discussing beforehand, it's been quite interesting for me because I've dabbled in the radio world, and many of us have grown up listening to yourself on the radio for the last, I'm going to say it, 25 years. Since I was about 13
all right,
years old.
leave it. Don't go there.
I know. I'm 33 now. I've been listening to it since I was a wee boy, and you've been in this radio industry for so long, in the entertainment industry for so long. Let's go all the way back to the start.
Okay.
Where people may remember you from. How did you find yourself in the world of radio? Because I guess you weren't presenting straight away, right?
No, actually I did loads of jobs before I got into radio. So if I kind of do a real quick run through, I worked at a leisure centre after I'd finished college. I then weirdly bought a car, and this bloke that I bought a car off offered me a job selling cars.
Yeah.
So I went and sold cars for 2 or 3 different car companies in my hometown of Leicester. Got a bit sick then of having to work weekends and bank holidays, and it seemed every time you took a day off, people sold loads of cars that day, and you come back, you'd be like, because that's the way you earn your money.
Yeah.
And saw an advert in a newspaper for a magazine. It was a brand new magazine. It didn't say what it was. It kind of was really cryptic. And so I applied, and it said weekdays, and I thought, yeah, let's get back to working Monday to Friday. And got this job, and it ended up being what was called a discount directory magazine.
Right.
And it had like discount vouchers in it.
Oh, okay.
And so I would sell the advertiser, the company, a place in this book, and then people would use the voucher. So, for example, Monday to Thursday, a restaurant would say, we'll give you 2 for 1. And that would be how it works. So it's very American. You know how Americans use like vouchers, don't they? Have like voucher wallets and stuff. So it was that. And unfortunately, the whole thing went bang within about 9 months. It didn't work. Nobody uses vouchers in this country. We're just not into it, are we? We're into loyalty cards, but not vouchers.
Yeah.
So that went up the Swanee. And fortunately for me, somebody I'd been dealing with was also advertising on a radio station called Leicester Sound. And Leicester Sound were looking for a salesperson, and this person recommended me to their sales manager. I said, oh, by the way, discount directory's gone up the Swanee, but there's this girl. Why don't you interview her? So I interviewed just before Christmas, about December time, got the job and started in January. So I had about a month where I wasn't working. That then led to me being a salesperson there for 2 or 3 years, I think, successfully. And then all of a sudden, the girl on the breakfast show there, which was a show called Gary and Pippa.
Right.
Again, phenomenal breakfast show duo that had been together years, and everybody knew them in Leicester. She decided that she was going to have a baby. She said she was coming back, and then she didn't. She stayed at home. And they said, we're looking for a new girl. They had this big meeting. We said, we're going to do this kind of queue up in the shopping centre situation, you know, where people come along and give it a go. And they set up some booths. And they said, so if you know anybody that's good at talking and chatting and then send them along on this Saturday down to the shopping centre, and we'll give them a show. And they put Guy in there, and then the girl would pop in and do a little show. It's like speed dating, but for radio. And then after the meeting, the programme controller said, why don't you have a go? And I was like, what? And he said, well, you're always the one upstairs that's cracking jokes, telling stories. Why don't you try out for it? Okay, fine. And I did. And I didn't have to do all the audition at the shopping centre. I just had to kind of jump that stage because they already knew me.
Yeah.
And they got it down to 10, and then they got it down to 5, and then they got it down to 2. And it was me and another girl. And the other girl was from one of the head office bosses. She was their PA.
Right, okay. And he's not going to give her up.
Well, he did.
Right, okay.
And I think there was a few, kind of give her the job.
Right.
And she got the job. And I was like mortified by this. I was like, I'd come all this way. I'd done loads of auditions. And so I thought, well, I'm clearly okay at it because I've got down to the last 2. So I sent out some CDs. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
CDs. You used to put your demo on a CD. And I put my name down as Sue without an E because I thought, that's a bit quirky.
And it's stuck. Blimey.
I know.
I was going to ask how did that happen, but there it is. Well, okay.
Because I thought it will look different, won't it? Somebody will see a CD and go, oh, Sue. Oh, with no E. I'm like Sue Pollard, And
just as nutty.
thanks. And got a few oh, sorry, no, we're not looking for anybody, that kind of thing. And then the radio group I worked for, as it was GWR, bought the Essex FM group. So that whole group of stations that were in Essex.
Right.
And because GWR always had a guy and a girl, when they took on Essex FM, it was just Martin. So they said, we're going to stick a girl with you. And we think this is who we're going to stick with you. So I went from Leicester to Essex for an interview, came down on a Thursday night, slept in the worst B&B you've ever slept in, right near all the nightclubs, Tots and all that.
Right, yeah.
Got
yeah.
no sleep at all the night before, and then had
God.
an interview on the Friday morning. And then when Martin and his little crew that he had on then had finished at 10, met Martin and a couple of other people like Mikey Porter, and there was a girl called Saz that worked on there, and went for lunch with the boss, and they said, do you want the job? We want you to come here. So that was 2000. It was about, I think it was probably August time, and the big beach bash was on just that weekend. So I couldn't go to that. I had to be home because I had things to do. And I moved down to Essex 2 weeks later and started on a Monday morning, the 11th of September, 2000.
Wow.
And that was how it all happened within the space of like a year.
It's incredible to hear, because without taking anything away from you, that sounds so simple that you went through a process, but obviously the complexity in the process. But the idea of it is that you just broadcast your name out there and said, this is who I am, give me a job.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even feasible anymore these days.
I don't think it's the way it's done these days. I think people still send demos to program controllers. I think that the difficulty now is that there aren't as many radio stations. So, and that sounds contradictory, really, because if you go through your dial, there are millions of radio stations. But what I mean by that is there aren't as many independent, small stations around. And that really came about in the last 5 or 6 years, where big companies are buying up lots of radio stations and then closing them down and just calling them one thing. No fingers pointed or anything, but you know who I'm talking about. So it's harder now, I think, because I would have been very happy to have started off at a smaller station and then, maybe worked my way up. But I went in on an Essex, Essex FM was massive. It was a funny story, actually. My mum rang her friend, and now my friend, Linda, who lives in Benfleet, or lived in Benfleet at the time. And my mum had always kept in touch with her for years. She's a bit younger than my mum. She's actually really my mum's friend's daughter-in-law. Right. She said, Sue's coming down to work in Essex. It'd be great if you could meet up with her. And Linda said, doing what? And she said, she's going on some small radio station to do the breakfast show. And when she told Linda what small radio station that was, Linda said, that's not small, Yvonne. That's massive.
Yeah.
That's a huge radio station broadcasting all the way across Essex, which you don't normally start on, do you? You don't.
Well, this is it.
Don't.
That's the surprise, if anything, that you started out in radio and your first actual job on air was with arguably the biggest station of its time, definitely, in the area.
Yeah.
And to this day, name-wise, even though it doesn't exist anymore, it's still, everyone knows Essex FM.
Yeah.
And the adverts.
They called it Radio Essex, didn't they? Or was it? It was Radio Essex, so you still had people calling it Radio Essex when it became Essex FM. And when it became Heart, you still had people calling it Essex FM.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was, it's massive. And, my mum had no concept of what job I'd landed, and it was...
Did that grow in time? Did she understand after a while?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, this is the woman that would ask me to send her anything that was in the newspaper, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Please post it to me, because, again, then she wouldn't have been able to get the radio station. The only time she ever heard me on the radio was when she came here.
Yeah.
And she'd come here and stay for a week, help me out with Lily and stuff like that. And she'd sit immediately as soon as she got up, she'd be like, make sure the radio's on Essex FM. I'd be like, yes, Mum, okay, and then she'd put it on in the morning and she'd sit and listen to it.
Yeah.
That was the only time she could hear me. There's no apps. There was no, well, not that she'd have one because she's old.
Yeah,
but
bless her. Recently had a birthday, you
yeah,
said?
she was 92 on the weekend, and I'd been telling everybody she was 93, so who's old?
Yeah. Blimey, there you go. What's your mum's name?
Yvonne.
Yvonne, you don't look a day over 91. There you go. I hope that works nicely for you. Do you think your mum was a huge integral character into the driving force that made you the character you are today?
I don't know, really. I think we were very much just me and her. My mum and dad had 3 children, my sister and then my brother with a couple of years between them, and then went about 10 years and had me. I was apparently a bit of a mistake. I always laugh at that. I was a mistake. My sister wished for me on the Christmas wishbone on the turkey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and then 10 months later, so I was born then the October after, there I was. And my sister said to my mum, I wished for this on the wishbone. My mum was like, really? So anyway, that's, I mean, there was other parts involved in it.
So
Obviously,
you're a
not
miracle.
Just
You're actually magic.
No, I think there was actually sex involved.
Right.
But
we won't get into that bit.
Nah,
We'll leave it.
No, we'll leave it. So there's a big gap, and then my brother and sister both left home quite early, independently. 16, my brother went into the Navy. 18, my sister, a couple of years older, went to be a nanny in London. And so it was me, mum and dad. I was like an only child. And then my dad had an affair, and my mum threw him out. And a couple of times he asked to come back. Yeah, exactly, yeah. A couple of times he asked to come back. She was not having any of it. And it was then just me and mum. And, you know, things like houses had to be sold and divvied up between them, yeah. And we moved house. And we moved house a couple of times in a space of about 5 or 6 years. So, yeah, that happened. And then it was just me and mum. So I think she's a strong woman. She had to become very independent. Dad was not a lot of good, not a great support when it came to me or financially. He was just out to get whatever he could. A few years later, he remarried. And, my mum never remarried. My mum never really, she did a bit of dating, but she never really met anybody that, in my mind, replaced my dad.
For her?
Yeah, because although he did the dirty, you know, she loved him before that.
Of course.
And he was a really cool dad. Not cool in a sense of like, you know, trendy or anything like that, but him and I would spend a lot of time together playing sports and doing stuff, fishing and all that. I was a bit of a tomboy, really. And yeah, I had a real connection with my dad. So quite a hard break when I stopped seeing him.
When was the last time you saw your dad?
Probably say about possibly 8-9 years ago. He's dead now. He died not last year, the year before. He died last year or the year before. I don't really know. I didn't go to the funeral.
Was that a tough decision?
No, it was really easy. It's really easy. I find people very hypocritical when it comes to funerals. And I'm not a hypocrite. And my sister told me, my brother and sister still had some level of contact with him. My sister was there helping towards the end. My brother's always had contact with him. I guess that's a father-son thing. But for me, I hadn't seen him except at weddings and christenings and stuff of my sister's kids and things like that. I hadn't seen him for a long time. And so just wouldn't have gone. It would have been really hypocritical. And you know what? The other night I had a dream. This is really weird. I had a dream that I stormed the funeral of my dad. Right. How strange is that? So
Coincidental that we're now talking about it as well.
Yeah, isn't it? Because, you know, when you're at a funeral, and you probably know as well, I do this celebrant work, so I do a lot of funerals, and so possibly that's why I'm dreaming about funerals. I don't know. But
whatever you're into, really.
Yeah, but whoever was conducting the service, and wasn't me, said, would anybody like to come to the front and say anything? And I did. And I told everybody what kind of person he was and what he'd done.
That's really interesting because, I mean, the psychology in that's going to be very strong, isn't it? It's going to be maybe you've almost... Have you ever said to yourself how you feel about that situation with your dad?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what I didn't do, though? I never said to him.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I think that... But it's strange that it's such a long time after he's passed away. I don't know why that would be, but I never said it to him. And a couple of times I thought, should I write it all down and send it to him and just say... this is what you did and this is... Because it has had a long-term effect on me, that situation, for sure. It really... It's... When I hear people talking about things that have affected them and it's nothing like, you know, childhood sexual abuse or anything like that. I've never... You know, none of that. I can relate because I think... Mine was minor, but it still had an effect. You
still recognise it because I'm sure there's things that you see in yourself. You're like, you know, I'm like this, or I have this level of emotion or whatever it may be because of that scarring.
Well, I definitely have, or I did have until not that long ago, really, the ability to self-destruct. Sabotage is probably a better word. I've been able to sabotage a lot of relationships, and I honestly think that's because of my dad. I think I would have had, when I look back, I would have had some really good relationships that may have been really long-lasting, but did a bit of self-sabotage for fear of being left. I sabotaged them before that person could leave.
I think it's quite common.
Or do something that Dad did, which was have an affair. So I definitely think that is something that he caused, self-sabotage, a real massive lack of trust, huge lack of trust. Because I think if anybody that is watching this looks and says, how can you then trust when the person that you spent the most time with and the person that you trusted the most, as in your parents, how can you trust anybody else? Because they're your parents. How can you trust anybody else if they can't be decent? If they can't do the right thing.
Absolutely. And I think these decisions aren't obviously still to this day coming into parents and guardians' heads when they're making the silly choices that your dad made, So if I'd like to think, I don't know your dad at all, but I'd like to think a human being, if they had the knowledge immediately of the effect they will have in future, if they choose to do this, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? The kind of hindsight situation.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's do you think you've got the ability to forgive and move on from it?
I think I've realised that actually not everybody is like that. I think I've done that. I think I'm much more aware of moments when I feel like I'm about to self-sabotage and I rein it in and I think don't. This is a good person. This is not somebody that should have this done to them. So I've definitely done that. I don't think I've forgiven him. No, I don't think I have. And the reason I didn't go to the funeral was just because why would I? I think people need to take a look at themselves when it comes to funerals. And if you don't have anything nice to say or you have no nice thoughts about that person, why would you be there?
Of course. It makes perfect sense.
Because actually a funeral, well, many of them that I do, is a celebration of life. And if you can't see any celebration in what he brought to your life, then why are you there?
Well, absolutely.
Don't be a hypocrite.
You've got such a great outlook on funerals because you are a celebrant. I'm sure many people are aware. And your celebrant work recently has picked up massively.
Yeah.
It's doubled, increased 100% because of some changes, which we'll get onto shortly.
Yeah.
But the ability to have the knowledge of that industry you work in and be really good at what you do is giving you a better thought process as to why you should or shouldn't go. Because namely, most people I think would go, it's a funeral, whether they've spoken to their previous, have got a partner or relationship with a father or mother or whatever it might be, they just might go in their heads, well, yeah, I didn't get on with them, but they have died, so I probably should go and pay respects. Well, no, why?
I know. And
did they have respect for you?
No. And also on that, it's kind of like, well, hold on a second. I think it's because they think other people will think it's weird that you're not there. So I honestly, when my dad had his funeral and my sister and my brother went, I honestly couldn't have given less of a shit what people thought that I wasn't there. I couldn't. I don't think anybody said anything. I certainly didn't get a message back from my sister who I'm really close with and my brother I'm really close with. I certainly didn't get a message coming back saying, people were asking where you were. Don't care. Couldn't give a flying, no. Did
your mum ask if you went or not?
Well, actually, I asked my mum if she was going.
Right, okay, yeah.
And did she go? I don't know whether she went. This is menopause brain, by the way. But
is it menopause brain
no.
Or is it just not that important to you?
Maybe. Could be that. I don't think she did go in the end, but I think we asked her and we said, are you going to go? And she said no. And she said to me, are you going? I said, no, of course I'm not going. I'm not going to that. My sister asked. My sister's always been the one that has, come to his retirement party. He'd love to see you. Come and talk to Dad. We're at a wedding or something like that. Come and sit with Dad and talk to Dad and his wife. Which he was married to her longer than he was married to my mum in the end. But and I'd be like, oh, go on then, hiya, how are you? You know, sit there, small talk. How's Lily? Yeah, she's fine, you know. And then always at the end, there would be this conversation about, okay, well, we must catch up. You know, I'll call you. I'd give him my number on a piece of paper. And then I'd hear nothing.
You never did call.
And so I think, why? Why do I put myself through that? You know, why do I sit there and do all the niceties and then get nothing? And
it's not you that needs to make that first step.
I shouldn't be making the effort. It was him that caused the situation.
Did he ever apologise to you?
No, never. I still think he thought right till the day he died that he didn't do anything wrong.
They had an affair.
Yeah, but I still think he didn't think he did anything wrong by not seeing me as well. So, you know, that's... But I often look at it, Will, in the fact that, you know, he missed out on a lot. He missed out on so much. Like, I was 10 when they split up. I did theatre. You know, I was in shows at in Leicester in the theatre, a proper theatre production in a show. You know, I danced for years and years. I played rounders. I played tennis. I did all these things, and he missed out on all of those. And then I had Lily, and then he missed out on all of that as well. You know, he's missed out on amazing things that have been done, and I just think, well, you made the choice and that's it.
Yeah, it's his loss, and that's a shame. But it's a segment of your life that happened, and it is something that can have knock-on effects, and I think we'll touch base on it again later on. But we did speak, obviously, a little bit about your celebrant work, which has recently picked up massively. For those that don't know, a celebrant is somebody that basically, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhat orchestrates and reads at a funeral. Yeah,
it's that, and it's I can do weddings as well, so it's not all funerals.
Oh, okay. Happy and sad.
One end to the other.
Happy being the funeral, sad being the wedding. In most cases.
Depends which way you look at it. Yeah, I can do weddings. There's a thing, there's now baby namings, which is like a christening but without the religious aspect.
Oh, okay.
I have to admit, though, that the funerals so far have been my absolute favourite thing to do. So with the weddings, I can't actually...
Context is coming.
And with the weddings, I can't actually marry somebody because I'm not a registrar.
Right.
So people have to go to a registrar, have the official stuff done. I take you, you take me. Oh, that's it. Oh, we're married, Will.
Yeah.
And sign
Shit.
who to sign the paperwork. So that's the registrar. And legally, as a celebrant, I'm not allowed to do that. But then what that does mean is you could get married on a beach.
Yeah, so that's quite common.
Do your service
these days,
on a
isn't it?
beach. You
People,
can,
for example, locally, they go to the local registry office, get married, and then they'll go and have a party and a wedding.
Service, and a service. So I can do that bit, and it can be absolutely anywhere. It doesn't have to be under a structure. Be in the middle of a field. I've got one this year that's going to be happening in some woods somewhere. So
do your background checks first.
No, I know them. It's
right,
fine.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, the funerals, I've just loved doing them so much.
Yeah.
And people think I'm absolutely bonkers.
Do you know what? The first thing I hear when you say that you love them so much, I can appreciate, because of the funeral we mentioned before with the Dash and my dad's good friend Barry. I think being part of something that helps people recognise how valuable that person was in their life is incredible.
Yeah.
And the only difference is that person's no longer on earth, or their soul is not here, or they're not alive, whatever way you want to put it. It's no different to just celebrating somebody else's life in any situation and talking about how amazing they were and the effect they had, the positive to everyone. And so it must be quite nice because you learn about these people and go, wow, they did this? That's incredible.
It's such an interesting job, and I stumbled across it really because I was doing some work for Havens Hospices, and I've been a patron for them for nearly 10 years now, and I was doing some voluntary stuff, and this guy said to me, got talking to me, didn't have a clue that I did radio or anything, but was just chatting to me, and he said, do you know what you'd be good at? And he said, you'd be a good celebrant. And I was like, a what?
The chocolates. I love those.
The Malteser ones. And so he said, yeah, I work with quite a few celebrants. He was into like weddings and doing weddings and DJing and all that and flooring for weddings. And he was in that. And he said, I know a couple that are doing really well. So I looked it up and I decided to enrol on a course just to get the fundamentals, because there's not legalities of it, but there are ways to do things, you know. And so I did a course, I did it at home, I did it in my own time. I had to learn some stuff. I had to produce a wedding, I had to produce a funeral, I had to do a baby naming and then present them to like mentors.
Right.
And did it all online through Zoom and stuff, and just loved it. I loved the whole course. I just thought the course was brilliant. That they did such a good job of teaching you how to do it, to write it, how to produce it, what you do with the family. And so, yeah, I cracked on with that. And then I just started. And the funerals are obviously a little bit more instant than weddings. So weddings, people book them in like a year, 2 years. So they're gradually coming through, but the funerals are normally within 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So started talking to some of the funeral directors and saying, look, I've done this. I really would like to work with you. And the ball started rolling November 23. And it was slow. And I think the reason for that is that people know what they like. So the funeral directors have a number of celebrants that work for them, and they know that they're reliable and they do a good service and the family like them and blah, blah, blah. So when a newbie comes in,
of course,
it's like...
You've got to get that track record, haven't you?
Yeah, and there's a lot of risk there as well, because imagine the funeral director has gone all the way through the process, and then the one thing that messes it up is the celebrant. It's the very last thing that the family see. And if the celebrant is crap or the celebrant messes up, you know, their service doesn't do it right, that's what they're going to remember.
Yeah.
So the funeral directors are reluctant to try anybody new, but it's gradually, with trust and with seeing some of my services and stuff, it's began to get... But we started off about why do I love it, is exactly what you said, is I get to hear the most fabulous stories. I get to hear about people's lives, where they were evacuated to, where they were born. You know, one guy used to sleep in the bottom drawer of a chest of drawers. You know, that's what they did when they didn't have a cot, you know, when they got lots of kids. Recently, I met a gentleman whose wife had passed away. They set up a special needs school years ago, like years, the first one in the county, if not the country, for children with special needs. And it's still running to this day. You know, people are interested.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I'm inherently nosy. But
you have to be for that, don't you? It's a benefit to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So salespeople, as I was, selling the magazine advertising, the radio advertising, and
those pictures.
And even, and even back to the cars, you have to be nosy. You have to find out what people want.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of car do they want? What do they need it for? Have you got kids? You know, do you need a big boot? Blah, blah, blah. The same when you're selling, and now the same when you're doing a service for somebody, because you want to make it, well, I do, I want to make it really personal. That service is unique to that person. It's not just a copy and paste insert name here. It's like, what is this person about? Who is this person? What do they like doing? What did they love? What was their passion in life? Let's get that in the service so people can really resonate with it when they're sitting in the crematorium. So I'm nosy and I'm interested. And that's why I like the funerals.
Yeah, and I totally understand it. Your character for it is perfect, as we've seen over the last 35,000 years on radio that you've been doing.
Leave it.
But I think it's everything falls into one, but points in the same direction, and that is your character.
Oh gosh!
Everything comes
Are you going to
down.
assassinate it, or
Absolute
are you going to?
joke. I am sick of you. What a load of shit, honestly. No, but jokes aside, it all points towards your character. You're a great salesperson. You're a great radio presenter. You're a great celebrant. You're a great grandmother, mother, and I'm sure friend as well. I wouldn't know, but I think
Stick
that's
around.
Yeah, I'll try. I think it's a testament to your character, and I think you should give yourself a massive pat on the back, because as I touched on earlier on, we'll go back into sort of the radio world in a second. I've grown up listening to Essex FM. I've grown up with it, and literally all my younger school years and older school years, and you are the reason that I wanted to work in the entertainment industry.
Wow.
110%. Genuinely, you are the main reason I wanted to work in this industry.
Was that because it sounded fun?
Because it sounded fun, and because the one thing I've always wanted to do is make people happy and laugh, right? I'm a class clown. I'm driving to school or walking to school, whatever it might be, listening to Martin and Sue. My mum's got it on in the car, and you'll laugh. Fucking hell.
I love it or you hate
infectious.
it.
It's
I'm
infectious.
a bit like Marmite, Will, to be honest.
Yeah, you do smell a bit like Marmite. Very yeasty.
Must wash more.
Yeah. I think it's the jumper. No, it's very infectious.
Sometimes you just can't get the smell out, can you?
But no, your laugh's very infectious, and it's just entertaining. And you, in that Martin and Sue duo, you were the entertainment. You were, the energy that bounced around, and that's what I love so much about it. And so many other people that are watching this did and still do as well. Which you are still on radio.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, to be honest. It's like craziness. So
there's going to be a lot of questions here, so maybe we should go from.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
you start it then, because otherwise I'll be jiggling around all over the place.
Right. So.
Okay, go.
Essex FM.
Yeah.
For how long?
Well, do you mean in its Essex FM?
Yeah.
In its words of Essex FM.
Yeah.
Before it became Heart. I think that was probably about 7 years, I think.
Really? It feels like longer.
No, it may
way.
have been longer. I mean, I can't actually remember when it became Heart. I might have got that wrong. But anyway, it was a good few years where we were saying Essex FM on the radio and nothing else.
When you were obviously in that period, you had some incredible highlights, especially working with V Festival and all these different things. There's some mega brands that you're working with because you were at the same level of those people. Essex FM as a brand and Martin and Sue were at the same level. You are still local celebrities.
Minor.
Well, yeah. It's only because you're short, though, isn't it?
Only in our lunch break.
But yeah, so you've then grown from... Grown, I don't know if it's the right choice of words, you'll let me know. You've then changed...
I'm definitely fatter, Will.
All right, you said it. You've changed from Essex FM to Heart.
Yeah.
Now, at that point of changing from Essex FM to Heart, was there shit, is this supposed to happen, or was it, this is incredible, we're now part of Heart?
No, actually, I didn't feel like this is incredible, we're now part of Heart, because what happened was it became very McDonald's radio, as we called it. It became, although I'll come to it in a moment, but we kicked back a bit, to be honest. It became very structured, very, we weren't allowed to do this. At one point, and you might not remember this because you're too young, but I was doing a thing called Sue's Little Black Dress Parties.
Right.
And we'd host it in a club in Chelmsford, a club in Southend, wherever. And we would have just a women's night. There was no strippers or anything like that. It wasn't crass. It was just a night where girls could let their hair down and you had to wear a little black dress. That was fundamentally it.
Yeah.
And I would host it and I'd have some prizes to give away. And all of a sudden, when we got taken over by Heart, the little black dress party wasn't on brand.
Right.
It wasn't something they did. So it became, oh, well, we're not doing that anymore. So there was a lot of stuff that changed, the way we did things, a slight change in how we presented, how long we could do a link for, when we had to do a competition or something like that, which was a competition that went across Heart, we had to record it and send it to them and make sure that it was okay. This is two people that have been broadcasting for, at that time, 12, 15 years.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah, we did know what we were doing.
Being micromanaged.
A little bit, yeah. And it was, we always had snoops, which is when we go into an office with our boss and listen back to what we've talked about. And we've always had that. But yeah, very much kind of like, right, this is it. When I say McDonald's radio, if you imagine you go into McDonald's and you get the same thing, don't you, on the board? You look up and it's like, oh, it's all the same. Or Wetherspoons. Or the only difference with McDonald's and Wetherspoons is you've got local pictures, haven't you, in Wetherspoons?
Yeah.
And that was the same as what they'd done with Essex FM and all the other ones, Cambridge and, Kent and all that kind of stuff. You'd literally got the same music, the same play out, and then just some local photos, which was us, the presenters. So, yeah, I didn't get excited by the prospect. And actually, the word on the street then was, this will come to an end. This will... what they are leading to.
So that was their intention from day one?
Yeah, because then they got rid of things like, as it went through, they got rid of people that were on mid-mornings, and then they got rid of people that were on afternoons, and then you just had breakfast, and then you just had drive time, and then they got rid of the person in the evening. And so you could see it gradually just becoming networked, a lot of networking going on. So you know that you're heading that route as well. And breakfast is your biggest show on any radio station. But, they were gonna do something eventually when they got the power to do it. They were going to change things.
It's such a shame. And I think it was only maybe a year and a half, couple of years. I can't remember how long you were actually Heart Essex for.
Oh no, it was a long time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's I can't remember exactly, but
So it was 2019 that they closed the Essex branch down, if you want to call it that. And so it had been a good probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's mad to try and grasp.
I know.
Okay. Yeah.
You'd probably have to Google it, to be honest, to actually work out the timeline of it. If you put in Essex FM, you'd probably be, it changed in that year. Oh, and then it closed down in that year. Definitely 2019 when it closed.
So what would you say you'd prefer? Would you prefer Essex FM or Heart Essex?
Essex
those
FM.
two things? Yeah. And Heart Essex were you staying there because it was a career?
I stayed because I loved my job. I don't think I've ever had a job like it. And there is no job like it. There is nothing. The amount of people that left Essex FM or Heart Essex and then came back was incredible.
Really?
They'd go off, maybe the sales team, somebody in the sales team would go off and say, I'm going to sell this now. And then, you'd be like, oh, you're back. Well, there's nowhere like it. Honestly, the fun that we had at the radio station. And if you take away the Heart umbrella, the Essex part of that Heart was still the most fun place I've ever worked.
Yeah.
The people that were working in that building, which was on Glebe Road, were a magnificent team of people that all really liked each other. And we had a great boss in the guy called Carlo. And he would, if they'd hit target, he would send out an email and they'd Italian day in Heart Essex, and downstairs him and his wife would have brought in loads of Italian food. He was Italian, obviously, Carlo. And there would be a spread of Italian food in the sales office, and he'd do great things like that. Or it's, we've hit target, everybody's involved, we're going out, we're doing this, we're doing that. So as far as the Essex branch of Heart, that was still brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And going into work was still brilliant. And doing the things we did was still brilliant. But, yeah, I think I said that we kicked back a bit. We did. We kicked back. We wouldn't always do what we were told.
But that's integral to having a good show, because otherwise you become robots.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, they're trying to make it McDonald's radio. Oh, excuse me. And everybody's doing it the same. We're kicking back a bit. And actually, we were the only breakfast show owned by Global that was beating Radio 2 at breakfast.
Really?
Yep.
That's incredible. I didn't know those were stats.
And that was the Chris Evans days.
Bloody hell.
That was when Chris Evans was mad, crazy. Everybody loved him and everybody listened to him before he went off. And we were the only ones that were in Radar. Now, Radar, if anybody doesn't know, is the way that they gauge how many people listen. It's an absolute pile of shit. But
it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all, the way they do it. But it's the only thing everybody's got to go on. So everybody goes by it. And when they got the Radar figures every 3 months, for a good length of time, we were the only ones that were beating him, Chris Evans.
That's incredible.
So we were number one in the county. And a lot of other counties, their breakfast show was number 2, maybe number 3. And we weren't. And so it never really made sense to me to blanket cover everybody and make everybody do it the same.
It doesn't make any sense. Even financially, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because they will be for the new, who was it? Amanda Holden and Jamie Theakston, I think is.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Don't mention that name.
It just doesn't make any sense to me, because financially they'll be paying them some silly money. I'm sure they's putting loads of money into the show, and it's personal opinion. It's just a load of shit.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We have nothing personal in the area.
No, you don't have any
from corporates anyway.
You don't have names. You don't have places. I mean, if I hear somebody call it Raleigh instead of Rayleigh, or Witham instead of Whittam, it makes my blood boil.
It just shows,
because people don't know. And I get that, I might have got it wrong when I first came here, but somebody will say it's not Witham, it's Whittam, and then I'd never do it again. I'd try not to ever do that again, or name check somewhere wrong. But nobody says that to anybody, because nobody knows, because it's all come from centralised buildings.
Well, this is it. It's a load of shit. But maybe something will change. Who knows? But you are back on radio in Essex on Essex Hits, Radio Chelmsford and Radio Southend.
Yeah.
Which can be listened to online. Download the Hits Player app.
Yep.
Or Google Essex Hits and you'll find everything you need to know.
You will.
And all the stuff will be below. I'll plug it. Don't worry. So, Essex FM moved to Heart Essex, right?
Yep.
Heart Essex 2019 said goodbye to you two Martin and Sue, and there was genuine, I hope you saw it as much as the consumer did, massive uproar.
Yeah.
There was thousands of people locally going, what the fuck are you doing? This
Yeah.
is ridiculous. And fast forward 6 to 8 months, maybe less, you were picked up by Radio Essex.
Yeah, so Martin and I worked with a guy called Chris Brooks.
Right.
Brooksy, as people would have known him from Capital, and he was working at Radio Essex. And the story goes, and I don't know how true this is, but this is a story I've got in my head, is that for one last time, the Southend Council and who organised the light switch on said, let's get Martin and Sue, even though they're not on the radio, let's get them on stage. And so we did the Christmas light switch on in something like mid-November. It was rammed. You couldn't see a piece of floor down Southend High Street if you tried. And I don't put that down to Martin and I being there. I just think it's something people do. But they said it was the busiest one they'd had in years. And a lot of people were coming up, are you okay? You know, how you doing? What are you going to do? And in November, I was still going, I've no idea. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'd looked at all kinds of different jobs and I wasn't being fussy, but I had bills to pay and I needed to get a job that covered what I needed to cover. So we did that, and about a week later, Chris rang me and said, do you think Martin and you would consider coming to Radio Essex? So rang Martin, had a chat with him. He said, well, it's worth a chat. So we went off and had a chat with Chris and his boss and then negotiated what we needed to negotiate and said, okay, we can't start until January because we're still in contract with Global. So Global had it. We were the lucky ones, right? Because when we signed our contract in December for January to the end of December, they let us go in May. We still had 7 months left on our contract.
Right.
So they had to pay us that. So they would pay us each month our wages that we would normally get.
Wow.
And that's legally because they signed us for a year. And what can they do? They can't just let us go.
Yeah.
So we were paid until the end of December. So when this call came in November, we were like, thank God.
Yeah. Just in time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
By the skin of our teeth, we're going to get a job, you know. So we had dinner and meetings and stuff and then agreed everything and started on, I think it was January the 6th that year, 2020.
How was the release, that press release, followed by the listenership? How did that go for you? Was it like a massive, thank God we're going to go over to Radio Essex now?
There was some press release. There was some, there was some interest in it. I don't know how much people look at press. There wasn't a massive amount of social media. For those that were on like Save Martin and Sue Facebook pages, they found out and that, that was great. And they all said, right, that's it, we're switching over, Comments like, we have not listened to them since they left Radio Heart Essex, and we don't like Amanda Holden, that kind of thing. So it was really great that we'd got another show. And it was good that people who saw that release, that press release, that we were going to be there. My only qualms with it, I suppose, now is that I don't think there was enough of that done. There wasn't enough telling people that we were there. It wasn't, they didn't maximise on the, sometimes you have to, what's the expression, to accumulate, that
Speculate
one.
to accumulate.
That's it. This happens all the time, Will, honestly. It is menopause.
I might make it.
Just words just don't come to you. So I don't think they speculated to accumulate quite as much as they should have done.
This is Radio Essex, right?
Yeah, because even like to last year before, I'd been somewhere shopping and somebody would say, I used to love listening to you on the radio. And I'd be like, still on the radio?
Yeah.
I'm on Radio Essex. And they'd be like, are you? Oh, I didn't know that. And then you'd have this little conversation. Yeah, been there since 2000. And that's disappointing because I think we could have had a bigger listenership had some, that it had been advertised better, it had been promoted better. But nevertheless, January came and we went into doing what we do and pretty much doing it how we'd always done it.
And how long ago was that?
2000.
2000? 2000?
No, blimey.
That's menopause for you. I was like, right, okay.
2020, sorry.
2020.
Not 2000, no.
So it's 2019, you finished it there,
Yeah.
and then the January of 2020.
Couldn't work because of that contract, so couldn't start till January 20, yes. You're right.
Okay.
No,
Makes
2020.
sense. 2020, okay. And that's fast forward 4.5 years, 4.75 years, call it 5. You were there. You were Martin and Sue on Radio Essex until, and for the next 3.5 to 4 minutes, I'm going to let you explain what you want to explain. But the question that most people are going to ask is what on earth happened and how has this happened that, I mean, I've got my own thoughts on it that I'll add to the mix afterwards. But yeah, you say what you're happy with saying.
Yeah, I never ever want to slag anybody off about this. Decisions are made in workplaces all of the time. You know, I won't be the first and I won't be the last to be let go. Okay. And that I want to make that clear. And this definitely isn't a woe is me situation. But I was told possibly beginning of November, maybe end of October, November, that my services on the radio, when my contract came to an end, because we're all contracted self-employed, when it came to an end in December, that I would no longer be needed. And obviously my first question was, is that both of us? I don't know why I asked that. I just said, and this was done on a phone call, by the way. Yeah. And I said, is that both of us? And the answer was no, we're keeping Martin. So that kind of, I didn't sit well, to be honest. That didn't feel great.
It wouldn't, yeah.
That didn't feel great. I definitely think we're a brand. You know, Martin and Sue are a brand. That sounds, and I don't mean that to sound cliched or...
No, it's a fact. It's black and white. It is a fact that you guys have built, for the last 25 years, the most popular breakfast show locally, Martin and Sue, not a singular name.
It wasn't just me and it wasn't just him. It was a combination of the two of us. So I felt slightly, upset about that. I felt really scared and really sad about it because it's been such a huge part of my life. You know, it's been the majority of my life when it comes to work. I did lots of little jobs over the years before I got this radio job. But the bulk of it has been doing radio of a morning, getting up at stupid o'clock and hopefully making people laugh every morning. So really, yeah, those emotions, just, you know, sadness, a bit of fear. The fear was I own a house. I have a mortgage. I need to pay that every month. I have a daughter that still lives with me, although, you know, planning to move out. And I was like, oh, crap, here we are again. And also I felt really bothered about kind of, well, why haven't you kept me? You know, why have you kept Martin? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Martin. I just mean...
Yeah, it could have been anyone. It's just...
How do you choose which one you're going to let go?
Ant or Deck. That make any sense, does it?
Yeah, I mean, people have said that to me about Ant and Deck.
Yeah,
you know.
look similar.
Yeah, I know. It's the hair and the slightly receding hairline, I would think. But yeah, how are you choosing this? And another thing that upset me as it goes on, you know, through the weeks from October through to December when I finally finished, is a comment was made, it's because he was Martin Day.
What does that mean?
I don't know. And I still don't know, but it gets me. I suppose heritage-wise, he was doing it on his own before I arrived.
Well, I mean, I would not know about that. I grew up with Martin and Sue. That's all I know.
So heritage-wise, he was doing that breakfast show for a couple of years or so before I got there. I don't know, but again, that comment just really didn't sit well with me. I felt like...
Who said that?
I'd rather not say.
That's fine.
The whole situation for me wasn't handled very well.
I think that's the opinion of the entirety of the public. And as far as I'm aware, I don't know black and white, but it looks like that listeners have followed you to your new show.
Yeah, I think the
support for you has been insane.
It has.
Specifically, might I add, for you.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm very grateful for that because there were a few dark days, but when you look through some of those comments, you know, you're always going to get a few that are, oh, thank God she's gone. And I've had that the whole of the 25 years. You know,
love it, though, don't you? You got to read it.
Well, no, you read it, and you know the funny thing about that is, and this is what I always say about social media, you have to be really careful. I'm a big advocate for, if you've not got anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I did a TED talk about it a few years ago, and I stick to that thing. And I think what people don't realise is you can have a million comments saying how much people love you, but the one comment that says, thank God for that, I can't stand her laugh, all she wants to do is talk about herself, blah, 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 and rip you apart, that's the one that sticks with you. Not the hundreds of others that are, you know, that are really nice and you think, oh yeah, people really like me.
It's
That's
funny,
great.
isn't it? Because I've had some nice comments over the years and I don't remember them all. They've been lovely.
But I bet you remember the
there's
shit
one
ones.
that never fucking leaves me.
Go on.
Never leaves me. I can't say it.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's one that I'll tell you after. But yeah, and it's always there and it ruins my life, really.
Yeah.
Because it's every time I do something like this, it's there.
You question yourself, don't you? Because
100%.
of that person that sent that message.
Imagine me questioning myself. Mad,
That'd be crazy. Yeah, so yeah, I didn't feel overly supported in those few weeks. And the thing when I say I didn't feel supported is I wasn't able to say anything. So I had to just carry on like nothing was wrong. You know, like nothing was changing. And do the show every morning, knowing, again, because this happened when we were at Heart, we were told about 2.5 months before we finished that we were finished. But please, Martin and Sue.
But I'm saying...
Yeah, but please carry on doing what you do every morning. You know, carry on being lively and bubbly and entertaining the county. But as of May, the end of May, you won't have a job. You know,
It's tough.
It is tough. And again, I want to reiterate, because I'm sure there are other people that get made redundant and have to work in their job. And that's really crap as well. I think the only thing is that our job has always been very public.
And you work in
By
entertainment.
definition of what it is, it's entertainment and it's public, isn't it? So...
And your job is to, as you self-proclaimed as well, make somebody happy, make a listener happy.
Yeah, make them laugh.
You can't relay your emotion through. So you've got to act the entire time that you're holding that information back. And the second time around this happened, specifically more recently, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Because one of you two doesn't have this issue.
No, I mean, he had his own issues, don't get me wrong. You know, his fear of working on his own, he won't deny that. You know, I'm not speaking out of turn right now when I say that Martin was crapping himself about doing it on his own. Really crapping himself. Like, and really struggled with, how am I going to do this without you? And that, you know, I don't know, Martin. You know, I would sit and I'd say, I don't know, but you're going to have to. You know, you've kept your job. You're going to have to just pull up your big girl pants and crack on. You know, that's the crux of it. I'm not here to sit and worry about you. I've now got to worry about me, because as of January, I won't be on the same amount of money I was on. So I'd got my celebrant work building up, but it was not enough to be covering everything that I have to pay out. You know, we all have to pay out our cars, our houses, our bills, all the rest of it. So I did a couple of times say to him, for fuck's sake, shut up. I honestly said that, not on air, obviously. I didn't say it on air.
No wonder she left. The language is
That's
appalling.
why they got rid of me. I had potty mouth. But I did, because it was annoying, because I was sitting there thinking, how am I going to pay the mortgage next month? And he was sitting there saying, how am I going to do this on my own? I don't know, but that was what you chose to do. You know, that was what he chose to stay. And the other thing is, there was also lots of rumours on social media about what happened. You know, somebody said I'd done something wrong. I hadn't said anything wrong. And you know what? In radio, if you'd have done something wrong,
it'd be immediate.
It would be immediate. It wouldn't be, she's done something wrong and we're keeping her for 6 weeks.
We're going to have a chance in 6 weeks. She's going to 6 weeks so she can say the C word every day all the way out.
Yeah. See ya, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye. No, it doesn't work like that on radio. If you get a complaint, an Ofcom complaint, and it's upheld, you're gone.
Yeah.
So I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't been offered a lower wage to stay and refused it. I hadn't done that. Although I think I would have done. I think I would have said, no, don't be ridiculous. I'm not doing it. I've not built up to this stage and then not doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have taken it. Because you're still having to get up at stupid o'clock, but for less money. I don't think so, do you?
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't, but that wasn't even offered to me. It was just your contract comes to the end at December and that's when you'll finish. I then worked for those few weeks and I negotiated that I wanted to leave just before Christmas, the 20th of December. I didn't want to work through Christmas. I didn't want to be Merry Christmas and a crappy New Year. So I negotiated to work till 20th of December, but luckily they were very kind and they paid me till the end of December. That was nice. And I wasn't allowed to announce it until that week I was leaving either.
That threw me off so much.
Yeah, so unfortunately, on the day that I was supposed to announce it, the Monday, I was really, really poorly and couldn't come into work. So I don't have many days off work, but that was one of them. You might say it was related to something, with your psychological head that you might have been like...
Could have been stress. Oh, yeah. No, you were on the piss with me the night before. No, I'm joking. She wasn't.
No, I wasn't. No. But so I didn't go in on the Monday. And then I went in the Tuesday and told everybody what was going on and that I was going. So I had 4 days of all of that text messaging and
a lot.
Yeah, the social media posts and oh my gosh, how dare they and all da. So that was for like the next 4 days and then it continued all the way through Christmas as well. So, but yeah, so that's how it panned out really, and that was where I was at just before Christmas.
So I'm going to say something now that's going to upset a lot of people. Depending on the answer, is that the end of Martin and Sue?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Not through choice necessarily.
I'll be really honest with you. I was a bit annoyed at him. There was a, and I've told him this, and there was a feeling of, why didn't you talk to me? Because Martin's not. It's really ironic that Martin is so good on the radio, and he is brilliant. But he's a crap communicator. There's when we found out, why didn't you call me and say, what shall we do? And I told him, I said to him, why on earth did you just say yes? Don't you think we might have had other options? But he's a man, no offence. And
I kind of get that though. I do kind of get that.
Men panic. And I think a panic came over him and he was like, what am I going to do? Yeah, just say, yeah, just take it. Just take the job.
It's really sad because I think that the truth of the matter is hindsight's a wonderful thing. But if there was that communication there, I could probably count 4 or 5 stations on one hand that would have taken Martin and Sue on like that.
Really?
But that obviously was that opportunity wasn't even given the light of day.
No. And that was what I was cross with him about, I suppose, is I think it's a strange thing with radio presenters because I wasn't a person that wanted to be a radio presenter all my life. I wasn't sat at home pressing play and record on the hit station and doing the links between it or whatever. I fell into it, as I explained. I literally, just because I'm trappy and I talk a lot and I try and make people laugh wherever I am, that's how I fell into it. But a lot of radio presenters are not that confident. They're not confident people when you actually meet them. They like to be in their room with a microphone in front of them, and then they're really confident.
Yeah, because the world's in here.
Yeah, and they're really funny. And Martin's so funny, such a funny guy. He's a pain in the arse, and that's how when they say, what's Martin like? I used to say, he's really funny, but he's a real pain in the arse, and he is. And he'd admit that.
But that's the beauty of the dynamic you two had.
Well, that's the dynamic, isn't it? Yeah. And so... he's in that studio, he's brilliant. Outside of that studio, I'm very much more the confident person. I'm very much more the one that's happy to stand in front of people, luckily, because that's what celebrants do. But he would be the one that would, sit back a bit. He would be the one that would push me onto the stage first. He probably wouldn't admit that.
Yeah.
Because again,
he's a
he
guy.
Doesn't. But I think on that situation of kind of, we're keeping you, do you want to stay? Oh, yeah, okay then. Yeah. And that's what I was annoyed at, that was never given the opportunity for us to talk and for us to go, actually, what else could we do? The world of podcasting, as you know, would we have been able to do a podcast every week and get it monetized and earn money from it and get sponsors and all that kind of stuff? But it was just never, ever put out there. It was never given the chance. So, yeah, I was cross at him as well.
Well, if you ever want one, let me know. I'll produce it for you. No problem.
Well, I am thinking of doing one, but
I think you're just
me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
am
should.
thinking. In fact, I've already got an idea for it and a title and everything. So,
Oh, go on then. Give us a little hint.
I think what I've thought about is the kind of situations that you come to. So it's kind of a bit off the back of what you're doing with me now, but the kind of life after.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about what happened until this point. And I'd really like to talk about what's going to happen after this point, like where am I going and what am I doing? And then I thought about other people that had those situations, not all the same as mine, because that would be dull as shit. But when somebody, life after divorce, I meet loads of interesting people that have had divorces and quite often very different outcomes from a divorce. Like what happened after your divorce. It's really different from so many people, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a friend who had triple negative breast cancer. My friend Sophie. I want to interview her life after triple negative breast cancer, because her life totally changed once she'd had that diagnosis and once she'd had her surgery and her chemo and her hair falling out and everything. It was, a horrendous time. She's come out of the other side of it. She never says she's cured, obviously. But interesting to now know her outlook on life after triple negative.
Must be so different. Must be so interesting. Yeah. But yeah, that's bang on, because I'd love to sit there and listen to how. The best way to put it is almost like a hindsight thing. Is you don't know. Same situation. You and Martin. He's like, oh, how am I going to do the show on my own? You're like, how am I paying my fucking mortgage, Martin?
Yeah.
If only you knew. If
you could see 12 months in advance. Well, actually, if I could only see till the end of February to see what's happened with my celebrant work and now what's happened with doing the new radio show, if in December you could have that little crystal ball moment and go, well, this is what's going to happen in January. You're going to start a new radio show and then your celebrant work's going to get really busy and then you're going to be really busy in doing the radio show. You'd go... wouldn't you?
Thank God this is happening.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
A door closes, another one opens. But you can't. And so, panic ensues and you try and make of it what you can. So the life after situation has so much scope. I've spoken to a few celebrities in my time. I'm hoping to try and get in touch with them where... I've met Mark Foster a couple of times. If you're listening, Mark, I really want to do one with you. So,
come on, Mark.
Yeah. He obviously had a huge swimming career, didn't he? Life after, when that swimming career finishes, what happens? What do you do?
He's now scared of water. Who'd have thought it?
But, he's an Essex guy as well. He lives around here. So, people like that have had such an intense career in a short space of time, because sports people do, don't they? And then what's their thoughts when somebody says, right, you're not going to swim anymore, or you're not going to play tennis for a living anymore, or you're not going to be on stage anymore? It's like that interest of what happens. And then I think that's good, because then there'll be people out there that go, okay, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Some people have never experienced redundancy
or
losing their jobs. They've been, incredibly fortunate, or they've never had something come to an end. They've always done it right until the end of their life.
And I think it's a great insight, especially for people that are going to be going through these things, are going to go, what the fuck is going to happen to me next?
Yeah.
Watch these podcasts, which hopefully will happen in the next, few weeks? Or what is
I'm hoping so, yeah. So now I'm at the radio station in Chelmsford, which is where it's based. They have a podcasting studio, so I'm hoping that, I can get in there and start doing some of these. So, yeah, that's exciting as well, because, that can earn you some spondoolies too, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you a millionaire yet?
Yeah, but only in Zimbabwean dollars. So I've got 180 quid roughly. Yeah.
Good,
it's going well. It's going
well.
So it's great to see, in the most backwards way possible, it's great to see that all the shit that you've been through this time, with the most recent, has happened for a very good reason. Yeah,
and I think I'm in a different place as well, because I'd pre-prepared for something to happen at some point. Let me just explain. I always knew, before anybody goes, well, it was going to come to an end at some point. I always knew it was going to come to an end. You can't have, well, the BBC do, but you can't have 80-year-old presenters still presenting together. It was always going to end. I didn't expect it to end at this time. I probably thought there was another year, and I certainly didn't expect it to end where it was just one of us.
Yeah.
So that's the shock of it, I think. It's not a shock that radio's kind of come to an end, because it does, doesn't it? But I was in a different place because I'd already got the celebrant stuff running along. I was in a different place relationship-wise as well. So my partner, we don't live together. My partner is hugely supportive of whatever I do. He's phenomenal because he's like, do you know what? Let's get on a plan. Let's get a plan, let's work out what we're going to do. So that was really good, which I didn't feel like I was in the same place however long it was, 5 years ago. So having a backup, and I would advise anybody to do this. If you've got an idea of something you want to do, please don't say it's celebrant. There's loads of them. But if you've got something you like to do, start doing it before you need to do it.
Yeah.
Start building it up. If it's a creative thing, if it's a podcast you want to do, start doing it in your spare time.
Yeah.
Whilst, get off social media, stop watching crap on telly, and set yourself to do something that could turn into something of a business. That'd be the biggest bit of advice I'd give anybody. Yeah. Don't sit thinking, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. I could have done that, and then I'd have been now training instead of earning. Yeah. So because I trained in 2023, I was already earning on that side of things, and my tax bill will reference that as well. By the way, it's just come through. Yeah. So that would be a huge bit of advice. If there's something you love doing and you think it could be a business, get on it. Yeah, I think it's very wise. It's very wise. It's definitely good. I think no matter how safe you feel in your line of work, whatever you do, it's definitely a good idea to have more than one revenue stream. Yeah. And the way things are going, jobs are being cut here and there and everywhere. AI is going to get rid of some people's jobs, isn't it? Just have something and also do something you really enjoy. And I know it's bizarre, but I really enjoy being a celebrant, and I really enjoy the funerals, as I've said. And that's not because I'm making light of a funeral or a service in a crematorium. It's because it's very satisfying. Yeah, and you're doing something fantastic because you're helping people that are going for a really tough time. And you do have to help them. Things. You do have to, because a lot of people have never ever sorted out a funeral, organised it. I do a lot of that. I write a service. I perform that service on the day that person is cremated, and so I get an immense amount of satisfaction from that. So find something you get a satisfaction out of and pursue it now. If people want to get in touch with you and ask you about anything to do with that world, maybe book you, how can they get in touch? I've got a website, Sue Harrison Celebrant. SU? Yeah, no E. Google it and I come up on there. We'll just put the search me. Yeah. And my telephone number's on there, my email, you can get in touch with me. It's easy. Just talk to me. If you want to talk to me, reach out. No silly questions, especially in that world, because like you say, I've never planned a funeral before. I wouldn't know where to start, so I would be calling you. Well, the funeral directors help you out a lot. They get things rolling, and then you choose a celebrant that you want to use. And there are lots, but I have had some bookings because I was on the radio, which is cute, because they've said, oh, my mum listened to you for years, or and unfortunately, sometimes you're doing a service for somebody that's younger and their mum and dad are booking it, but they've chosen me because they know I was kind of upbeat and would make a fun service. I think I'm getting recommended because I'm slightly different in the fact that I do a lot of celebration of life services, not the religious, not the straight kind of thing. So if somebody says, they want a celebration of life, the funeral director goes, I know who to give you. But you don't have to go through the funeral director. You can just come straight to me if you want and use me that way. So. Then they capture you and then go to a director. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a very good thing. There's a question that I'll ask you, and after we've done this, I forgot to put the book on the table, but we'll get it afterwards and you can do it. There's something called the Dash Book. And all I ask of you is to write a quote or a question for the next guest. Most often people write a quote that they live by in life. So you don't have to say it out loud or anything like that, but you write it in the book. You can tell people if you have a quote to live by or a piece of advice. And just after that as well, is there anything you'd like to say to any of the people that orchestrated and commented within these Facebook groups that have been supporting you this whole time? Okay, well, my quote would be, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. For anybody that's, you know, of an older age and single and may want to meet somebody, yeah, you have to kiss a lot of frogs until you meet the right one.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
That's not what we're not.
No. He's not my type at all. No.
And he's not mine. So. And to a deck. I don't mind.
But just not Sue. No, that's a bit of a joke, the kiss a lot of frogs. I do say that a lot.
Yeah.
A quote, though. I don't know, really. I don't know whether I've got one.
Well, it might come to you. You've got all the time in the world till your car park runs out.
Which is I haven't even got a watch on. Yeah. I suppose I would think just be real. Just be real. I think there's nothing worse than meeting somebody that's really fake. You get what you see with me, and I would advise that everybody does that, because if people don't like me, you know, I'm not that bothered, especially if I don't like them.
Well, yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
No. But, you know, if people don't like me, then that's absolutely fine. We're not here to be liked by everybody in the world. But at least be authentic. You know, be an authentic person, be real. And I'm now waffling about lots. I'd say I didn't have a quote, but, you know.
Here's a chapter.
Yeah. Find good friends. Find good friends, and then... And over COVID, I lost a couple of friends, not as in death, but just through not really gelling with them anymore. And I just think you shouldn't hang on to those people. You don't need to.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, you know, if you're not bringing anything to the party in our world, then no, I'm not putting up with it. So I don't know whether these are any of these are quotes, but
these are definitely statements that you should live by. And
yeah,
I totally agree with them.
Yeah.
But I'll get you to write something in the book.
And
There's
a
no rush
question for
it.
the next.
No, so yeah, it was one or the other.
Oh, I see.
It was one or the other, yeah. The last piece was just, is there anything you'd like to say to the group of people that have supported you over the last few weeks? I know there will be.
Shall I look into the camera? Would that seem insincere?
No,
I don't
absolutely.
know.
You got the middle one or the one on the right.
Okay, where am I? Oh, no. Oh, look, there we are. No, I won't look into the camera because I can't, because it's really off-putting, and I think, Jesus, it really does put £10 on you, doesn't it?
And there's 3 cameras, so...
£30? Yeah. I can do without that. Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's. I mean, that I don't know what else to say really. Thank you is the main thing, because it made me feel better about what I had been doing as a job. The thing that struck me on both times, that when Heart closed the Essex Heart down, and then when this happened, is you don't realise as a radio presenter the impact you're having on people until something happens. And when it happens, you get these messages about... I mean, the thing that made me cry when Heart Essex closed down on the last few days was the messages that came out that were like, you have got me through my darkest days. You've made me laugh on the way to work when I was driving to a job that I absolutely hated. You two have made me laugh every single day for the last 10 years or whatever it was. Those comments really make you realise what you've done. And you don't realise it every day because you're just doing it and you're just there and you're in the moment, and people will send messages in but not tell you how they feel about you. But when it ends, they tell you how it feels. And the same happened in December. So those messages are the ones that I think will really stick with me, is the ones that where I feel like it's not just a radio show. It's almost like a bit of therapy for people. Yeah. And it's
absolutely,
I feel really grateful that I've done that, and I feel happy that it's helped people. And so thank you for showing that, you know, this is not what people wanted. I don't think it, you know, without being glib, I don't think it did any good. You know, it didn't. No. Yeah. It did get me noticed by another radio station, though, obviously. So that, you know, that was a real help. When people are saying, no, don't let her go, then somebody else has gone, boom, let's have her. So that's helped. That's really helped. And it helped just over Christmas, it helped by seeing lovely comments, you know, how sad people were. Don't be sad over Christmas. That's not what we wanted. But it just a thank you, because they made me smile, the comments, and they made me laugh over Christmas, and things didn't look as bad as I thought they were.
And look at them now.
I know, craziness, hey?
I read so many of those comments and I felt warm for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, it's so nice to see. Because I like I said earlier on, growing up, I adored you guys. And to see the support for you, rightly so, it was like, thank goodness that just more than one generation is still in love with you and what you've done.
Yeah.
And there's still loads to come. So people can tune into you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm on Essex Hits.
Yeah.
Radio Chelmsford,
Yeah.
Radio Southend. You can get us on DAB. I'm on 10 till 1. I'm doing it on my own. That's a new challenge in itself because it's quite a different way of presenting on your own, isn't it, than
Do you
a double
enjoy
header.
it? Is it tough?
Yeah.
or-
No, it's been difficult to start, to kind of gauge my, I suppose, style and get back that creativity of talking about things. It's different because you've not got anybody to bounce off, you've not got anybody to comment or, to take the mickey out of you or whatever it is we used to do.
Well, listen, if you ever need anyone...
I know where to find you. I know where to find you, Will.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've got thousands.
Yeah, I bet. But it's good. It's a challenge. It's another new challenge. Who'd have thought at my age I'd be doing another new challenge?
Yeah.
But, that's what life's about. Just keep challenging yourself.
A new bus pass and a new challenge.
Cheeky sod. Honestly. I'm nowhere near my bus pass.
You're at least 3 years off. At least. At least. Come on. Play the game. So,
Right, that's it.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. We've covered lots of things. There's many things we haven't covered as well. I'm sure we can come back and have a chat about things another time once your podcast is up and going.
Yeah.
So we can give you a little boost there as well.
Thanks.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And on behalf of everyone, thank you for being Sue Harrison for us all.
Thank you very much, Will, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's one of us then.